Hi there, this is Ali Ryder with Acre Consulting, and this is a video on how to use HIFIS 4 to record a survey during your point-in-time count. So the first step that you're going to need to do is load up a web browser like Firefox or Chrome. I currently have Mozilla Firefox loaded up. Then you're going to go to the URL that's been provided by your pit count organizers. They're going to tell you what URL to put in. When you go to that page, you should see a login screen. First, you're going to need to enter a username that has been provided by the pit count organizers. Then you're going to need to enter your password, which has also been provided by your pit count organizers, and select the service provider that you are going to be accessing. Then we click Login. The first time that you log in to HIFIS, you might need to accept the terms and conditions. And after that, we have now logged in successfully. Over here at the top left, there's this pit count menu. Now there's a couple different ways that we can complete a survey. The two options are to complete a scrolling survey or a paging survey. Now the only difference is how it displays on the screen. If you choose to do a scrolling survey, then that looks better on a desktop computer. So you have a big screen and lots of space. If you're doing your pit count on a mobile device like a phone or tablet, you might prefer to do the paging survey. That will show one question at a time and let you go through so that if you have less space on your screen, you can see one question at a time. Now, to do a scrolling survey, we're going to use either the pit count menu and click on Live Surveys Scrolling, or you can go to the surveys list, which brings up a screen like this one, and click on the Add Pit Survey Scrolling. Now, depending on the way your event has been configured, you might see this button at the top that says Pit Event Details, which might give you some information like an introductory script for your pit count. You can click on the X button on the top right to close that. Now, your organizer might have put some information in there that's important to you, or you might not see the button at all. Next, we need to enter the survey details. So you're going to automatically have a survey number, and it's going to automatically know what time the survey is being completed. It'll be right now. Next, we need to select the pit shift. So this is the shift that you've been assigned to. You may have been assigned to multiple shifts, depending on how your count is being organized. So select the one that you're on right now while you're doing the survey. Next, you'd want to enter your location. So you can enter anything in here. Please ask your pit count organizer for guidance on what information they want to be recorded. You could enter your GPS location, or you might need to put down the name of an intersection. You can optionally add some comments as well. Now, once you've completed at least these fields, notice that the red star means that they are mandatory. Then you can continue. The first section here is screening questions. So we're going to click on this bar or the arrow on the right to expand the section. The first part of a pit count is screening. We are going to see if the person we're talking to is eligible to complete the survey. So our first question is, where are you staying tonight? For example, they might be sleeping outside or in an emergency shelter or on a public space. If you select one of those responses, you'll be able to proceed with the survey. Some of the other options, such as own apartment, will give you a notice that said the selected response will screen out the participant and end the survey. So if you start to ask questions and discover that they're ineligible, you'd select that response and then click Save at the bottom of the screen. But let's imagine right now that the person we're speaking to is eligible to complete the survey. Once we've completed the screening, we can now move on to our core questions. So you can click on this bar to expand. And here we have the main questions that are attached to this survey. Most of these questions operate in two sections. So the first portion up here will ask if the question has been answered or not. And then you can follow up by actually putting in a response. So notice these first three questions have a similar format. Here's a question, and in this drop-down menu, we want to know, did the respondent answer? Did they say they have no family members, or did they decline to answer? And this one answered, don't know, or declined to answer. And this one answered, don't know, or declined to answer. If the respondent answers the question, you can actually skip this part and put in the actual response. So under specify family members, for example, they say, yes, I'm here with my 3-year-old daughter. You can click on the add button to indicate that a dependent child is with this respondent. And we said it was a 3-year-old daughter. We can click Save. Notice after we've put in a value here, this has changed to answered. You could start by saying that the respondent has answered the survey and then actually put in a value. But you don't have to put in the answered first. If you put in a value in the second part of the question, then it'll automatically recognize that the respondent has answered that question. If the respondent does not answer a question, or if they decline, you would select that they decline to answer. That removes the second portion of the question. So if they don't know or decline to answer how old they were when they first experienced homelessness, then if you select don't know or decline to answer, you won't be prompted for the age anymore. The next question here, in total, how much time have you been homeless over the past year? It asks for a value in days. Now, a lot of people aren't going to know exactly how many days they have been homeless. On the right-hand side, notice that there is this ... button. If you click on that, that's going to load a time unit converter. So if they say that they've been homeless about 3 months, you can enter a 3 in the months field. After you click Save, it'll convert that to a number of days. Or if they say that they have been homeless since January 1st, you can enter the date in here. And it will convert that into the correct number of days. In this case, I've entered January 1st, and it's converted to 100 days. Most of the rest of these questions follow a similar logic. Also note that your specific survey may look a little bit different than the one that I am demonstrating here. Some of the wording might be different. There might be some optional follow-up questions that have been added in that are not on my demonstration. So be sure that you go through the survey first before you start asking real respondents, just so that you're familiar with each of the questions. As you go through the survey, you'll notice this bar across the top shows your progress percentage. So currently we have answered 20% of the questions on the survey. This is useful to give us an idea of how many questions are left and whether we've missed any questions. Some of these other questions, for example, have you stayed in an emergency shelter in the past year, have follow-up questions. So for example, if you say no, I have not stayed in an emergency shelter, there might have been a follow-up that asks why not. If you ask, how long have we been in this community? And the respondent says, I've always been there, then it's not going to have any follow-up questions such as how long they've been in the community. If instead they answer that they've been there a particular length of time, then there may be a follow-up question that asks, where did you live before you came here? If you select Canada, then it's going to provide you with options for additional specificity. You can indicate the province and even the community where the respondent lived before they came to your community. Some of these questions, such as did you come to Canada as an immigrant, refugee, or refugee claimant, are a single drop-down menu. Either yes, they're an immigrant, yes, they're a refugee, no, or they could say they don't know or decline to answer. It's just one response. Do you identify as Indigenous or do you have Indigenous ancestry? Again, there may be follow-up questions to this. For example, what community are you from? You'll need to complete all of the questions before you're able to save the survey. Otherwise, it's going to be listed as an incomplete survey. So at some point, your respondent may decide that they don't feel like answering some of the questions. You can instead say decline to answer. So if the respondent stops answering your questions and walks away, then you'll need to indicate decline to answer for all subsequent questions, just to make sure that you've indicated that the survey is in fact complete. On a question like this one, 13, what happened that caused you to lose your housing most recently? There are multiple options that can be selected. It says over here, select all that apply. So for example, if this respondent indicated that they lost their job, and then after they lost their job, they were unable to pay rent or mortgage, you can put in multiple values here. You do that simply by clicking within the field and then selecting an option. You can also remove options that you've accidentally put in here by clicking on the X button next to it. The point of time count is organized into core questions, then some optional questions referred to as COH questions, and finally some locally defined questions. Depending on how your point in time count was organized, you may also see some COH questions that are here. Notice that there are some that display for me. In contrast, when I click the local questions, there's nothing that displays here for me. So you'll need to make sure that you answer all of the questions, or, as I mentioned, make sure that you indicate that the survey respondent has declined to answer. For example, they may decline to answer being part of a particular racial group. Once you have all of the questions answered, then you'll be able to save your survey. My survey is at 100% and I can click Save. However, if for whatever reason we need to abandon the survey, there is a button at the top right that says Abandon Survey. This will prompt you for a reason why you abandon the survey. For example, the participant does not want to continue, the surveyor does not want to continue, or perhaps you accidentally started a survey when you shouldn't have. Select one of those values. You can type in another reason and click the confirmation button. if you need to abandon your survey. For right now, I'm going to cancel that and click Save. If you are just conducting a point-in-time count, then you have successfully completed the survey. You should get this survey text here that says, "End of survey. Thank you for participating in this year's PIT count." If you're also doing a registry week, at this point, you'll be prompted to complete a VI spit out with your client, but that's going to be a different video. After this, you can actually go back to your surveys list or add a new PIT survey. Here are the list of all the surveys that have been done by me, including this last one, which we just completed with the location that we entered in. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful for you.